Here's a clear and straightforward explanation of Proposition 50 in California. What it is, why it's happening in November 2025, and what happens if you vote yes or no. What is Proposition 50? Proposition 50 is a proposed change to the California Constitution about how the state draws maps for U.S. House of Representatives seats, the congressional districts. More simply, it asks voters whether California should use brand new legislative maps drawn by the state legislature for the next few elections instead of the maps that are currently drawn by an independent commission. Why is it happening in November 2025? In August 2025, the California legislature passed laws to put this change on the ballot for a special election on November 4, 2025. It's meant to be a temporary override of the usual process until after the 2030 census. If voters approve it, the new maps would apply for the elections in 2026, 2028, and 2030, and then the independent commission would resume control after that. The reason the sponsors say they want this, they point to actions in other states, especially Texas, where the map drawing process was changed mid-cycle, before the usual 10-year census redraw, which they argue gives unfair advantage to one political party. Proposition 50 is pitched as a way for California to respond. What happens if you vote yes or no? Here's a simple breakdown. If you vote yes, California will use the new maps drawn by the state legislature instead of the independent commission for U.S. House elections starting in 2026 and continuing through 2030. After the 2030 census, the independent commission, which normally draws the maps, would go back to doing it. Supporters say it's an emergency temporary, fixed to counter unfair map drawing elsewhere, protects fair elections in the near term, and keeps the commission after 2030. If you vote no, the maps currently being used, drawn by the Independent Commission, will continue to be used for U.S. House elections until after the 2030 census. You are rejecting the special legislative map change and keeping the process as is. Opponents say it protects the reforms that gave an independent commission power, keeps map drawing away from politicians, prevents possible favoritism. Why is this a big deal? Congressional district maps decide which voters are grouped together and thus who represents them in the U.S. House. The way you draw those maps can help or hurt a political party's chances in elections. Normally in California, the Independent Commission draws the maps to try to be fair and nonpartisan, i.e., not favoring one party. Proposition 50 proposes to temporarily switch that process to the legislature, which means more politician involvement and less of the independent method, at least until 2030. Some say this is a necessary defensive move. Others say it undercuts fairness and sets a dangerous precedent. Bottom line, vote yes. Accept a temporary change, new maps drawn by the legislature for the next few elections, 2026 to 2030, then revert to independent commission. Vote no. Keep the current independent commission's maps in place for those elections. No change to the process now. The question for you, and for all voters, is, do you trust the independent commission and the current maps? Or do you think a temporary legislative map drawing change is needed for emergency purposes?